If you want to live a life that most people can't live, you have to be able to do what most people aren't willing to do. Nobody in a position of greatness and wealth and success has got there by saying, I'm just going to do things that make me comfortable, that I want to do.
Welcome to the Successful Musician Podcast today. Our guest is Kris Bradley. She's an incredibly talented musician that realized that she's a producer as well. So songwriter, producer. Kris has done some amazing, cool things like she's done stuff with Sony, BMG, Rolling Stone magazine, Fox, Lincoln, Miramax. I could keep going on and on and on. Lots of sync projects. And then as I've learned more about you, Kris, I've found out that you've found this love for teaching and helping other people. You've become this mentor, coach person, and you've created all these courses and things to help other musicians to find success in their music, or just, figure out what that means to them. And maybe just to get started, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up getting into music? I know you've got a couple of cats, and but tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got on this path.
Sure. So music, my mom had me super young. Like my mom had me when she was 16 in the 80s. If you can imagine what growing up around that kind of music was like, it was awesome. I got everything from Guns N' Roses to Heart to Led Zeppelin to Motley Crue, who my mom went on tour with, by the way. But Here's the kicker. My great grandma is who we lived with for the first 8 years because my mom was so young when she had me. So I also grew up with big band and jazz and, swing and just all this really great classical music. In fact, the first piece I learned how to play on the piano was by ear right before I was 5. Because I remember I wasn't old enough to take piano lessons yet, but I learned how to play In the Mood by Glenn Miller by watching and listening to my great grams. So that's where it all began. And if you fast forward to kind of how that turned into me becoming a producer, I always tell people I kind of became a producer by necessity, because I really thought I was going to do the songwriter artist thing. And I was doing that for a while. In fact, all throughout my 20s, I was always like, either playing some kind of gig somewhere. I did everything from playing 4-hour bar gigs to busking the streets of Santa Monica, 3rd Street Promenade, to touring the world with an all-girl tribute band to Led Zeppelin called Les Zeppelin. Okay.
Oh, sweet.
So I was doing everything I could to hustle and make money, and I was working on my songwriting chops. And, the next chapter for me after all of that was I wanted to become a professional songwriter. That's what I got in my head. Like, that's what making it meant for me. Like, I want to get paid to write songs. Right. And so, how they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It's like the books started falling off the shelves. Pat Pattison, Writing Better Lyrics, Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. And then a lot of self-help and empowerment books like Think and Grow Rich, and The Power of Now. Right. So I'm on this journey. I'm like, I want to be a pro songwriter. And I start getting into it, and I start, connecting through different services and people with publishers, and I'm pitching my music, and they're like, you need professional demos. Like, you can't keep bringing us these half-assed demos. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll get demos done. Turns out they're $500 a pop or more.
If they're cheap.
If they're cheap. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm running out of money. And I decided to learn how to do it myself. And, I remember the moment I made that decision, because I had moved to Nashville, and here I was writing 2 and 3 songs a day. They don't mess around there. It's like it's the schedule. It's like, oh, I got a 10 o'clock right today. I got a 2 o'clock right, So I'm watching all these really awesome songs pile up on what I call the hard drive graveyard, because, if you can't get them out, then it doesn't really matter. They're just collecting dust. And I remember pitching a song to a publisher, and she said, these are really great songs. She took a listen to a couple. She goes, if you could just produce, you'd be the full package, because I told her I can't afford demos. And she said, just learn that thing and you'll be unstoppable. And I went, all right. And I went home and I decided to learn how to produce. Right. And as a singer-songwriter who is not technically inclined and didn't grow up in the era or age of smartphones and computers even, it was very challenging, because I didn't even own a computer for until I think I was 30.
Wow.
Right. And so I was learning basic things like copy paste in a Word doc, like I was learning very basic computer things, let alone dealing with a piece of software that you could create music in. But, and so I was like pulling my hair out, like, I couldn't get my microphone to work. I had all these tech issues and eventually overcame it through just sheer grit and persistence, finding various mentors, finding various, videos that I could find. And then eventually they started saving money on my demos because I could do my own demos. And then people started hiring me to do their demos. One thing led to another. I'm a producer by accident, if you will. I started getting music into film and TV and all these other avenues, but I'm going to shut up and let you ask the next question before I go any further.
So as you were growing up, I mean, did your mom encourage you to do the music? I mean, you said you were touring around a little bit, but I mean, was that something where they were like, hey, you should have a music career? Or was it one of those where they were like, don't do that?
I was never encouraged to pursue music as a career. I grew up with, like I said, my grams and the piano in the house. So I used to put on shows in the living room, and like everyone always supported me from you're talented, we love what you're doing. But I remember even specifically saying to my mom that like, well, what if I want to do music when I grow up? And her saying, that's not what you do to pay the bills. Like you need to get a 9 to 5, I remember her planting the seed. You want to be something like a corporate lawyer. So you have really great, consistent, income and basically don't try to use music to pay the bills. And to just rewind a little bit, my mom and I actually don't really speak anymore. And we have kind of a strange relationship, but she kicked me out of the house when I was 15. So I've been on my own ever since I was 15 years old. I didn't graduate from high school. I didn't go to college or anything like that. So I was like all the more determined to, just kind of show my family and the world that I could make a living with my music, which I think is part of my fire.
And I, when you say that, you told me earlier that this year you're getting your 2 Comma Club award on stage with the ClickFunnels. So that's exciting that you, that'll be a fun picture to maybe send to mom, maybe.
Yeah. Right. That's going to be my holiday card. Hope you're well. Wish you were here.
That's exciting. Well, good for you. So as you started to figure out that you could kind of do this coaching, you've worked with a lot of different artists now, and you probably see a lot of those same things that you went through in a lot of their stories as well. When these people are coming to you, what's kind of the path, and what do you actually do for them? Let's say somebody's coming to you and is like, hey, I want to be a musician. What happens next?
Well, usually people come to me as a musician saying, I want to be a producer or I want to learn how to monetize this. So to kind of pick up where I left off, like I said, I became a producer out of necessity, turned into becoming a pretty profitable career for me. Definitely like really excited to be able to sit at home and not even have to put on real pants and be like tracking vocals for this client and doing jingles for this client and sync over here. And all of a sudden I'm making 6 figures as a musician from my home studio. Right. And I'm working with these various artists. And every time they come over, they'd be like, how do I do what you do? Because when I leave here today, I'm going to track these vocals on this demo. I'm going to go to a bar job, or I'm going to go work, for Uber or Lyft. And so, you just got to learn this. You got to do this. And I started explaining, how to set, their DAW up and how to start recording, and even sharing that, like, look, you don't have to be a professional producer to be able to turn this into monetization, right? Because as a singer, if you can track your vocals, you can collaborate with producers and musicians all over the world that will pay you for that. So one thing led to another with me, like teaching people in person. And I realized that's not sustainable, right? I'm like, I'm going to shoot some YouTube videos. That's where it all started, right? And before I could even get a YouTube channel off the ground, I mentioned it to a friend who went, no, you got to read this book, Launch by Jeff Walker, and you got to create a course, which set me down that path, right? So that's what led to me creating courses. And what I found with singer-songwriters is that they had the same kind of challenges that I did, which is not being tech savvy, feeling like this is way over my head. I could never do this. It doesn't help that producers in the industry love to tell artists, you could never do this. You need me, right? So it really begins with empowering, to answer your question, the musician to understand that this isn't over your head. You absolutely can do this. And while there's so many different opportunities you can pursue with your music, you're not limited to maybe what you grew up thinking it was, which was if I tour and get a record deal, then I've made it. which isn't really quantifiable. It's kind of like, well, what does making it mean to you? Right. And so for me, while I went to Nashville thinking I wanted to get a publishing deal, I realized that my friends that had #1 records that had publishing deals didn't make as much money as I did doing session work as a producer. And it was a very, very sobering moment when a friend was at my house and I was thinking he had the life I wanted because he had the latest, single with the latest like hot country star. And he said to me, Kris, I need you to show me how you do what you did. And I had this moment where I went, wait a second, you're the definition of success and you're asking me how to do what I do. And that in that moment redefined what making it meant for me. I was like, I make a great living doing what I love. And guess what? I own everything. Like for him, it's like he had to write for so many years before a publisher would give him a publishing deal. And then guess what? He got that #1, all that money
paid for the publishing deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whenever someone says, well, if you get a hit song, it's like $1 million or 500,000. I'm like, how long did you write for free? How many hours did you put in? Break it down. You didn't write for, it's not $1 million. It's not 500K. So I started teaching people by simplifying it. And then, that began one product, which I called From Voice Memo to Demo. Then people started getting massive results, right? They're like, oh my God, I thought this was so hard. I can totally do this now. People were starting to book work as a session singer and a songwriter before they even finished the course. But then you solve one problem and you create another. All of a sudden they're going, I don't know how to manage multiple clients. I don't know how to price for my services. I don't know how to run a business. It's like, it's like a beautiful, a beautiful problem to have, right? I'd rather have those bigger problems. So then I started creating other courses and resources to help them learn how to build businesses, because the same thing happened for me. When I started getting multiple clients, it's like, okay, you got to learn how to project manage. You got to learn how to delegate and outsource and do things that aren't in your zone of genius. And so I started teaching them that. And yeah.
So I'm going to rewind back. So I've got let's just hypothetically, let's say we have a kid that is just getting done with high school and they enjoy music and they've played around in Logic a little bit, recorded a couple songs, and they've decided, okay, I'm going to go over the college path, going to do college and going to sign up for the sound engineering or whatever courses they provide. If you've got that person sitting in front of you, let's say it's one of your kids, what do you tell that person?
It's a loaded question.
Very loaded question.
Loaded question. Okay.
And so close to home for me. I won't give away who it might be, but it's a real scenario that I'm going through right now.
Here's the deal. And this is actually very put by somebody on my team. I know I have a team, and one of the team members said this. Because he went to Berkeley. He did all the top-notch music, music courses, college, all of it, you name it. And what happened? He left school and he had no tools to monetize. Great skills, made some great friends, right? No tools to monetize. Started working with me, and within 3 to 6 months, made more in that period of time than he had in the entire previous 2 years as a musician. And what he said to me was this. He said, if you want to find yourself, go to music school. If you want to create a career, go to Produce Like a Boss. So here's what I have to say. Ask yourself once again, are you pursuing that because in your mind, like you think that, making it means X, Y, Z. So for example, I've tried to go take classes on recording. And even a production program where I got there and they act like everyone's going to have access to that big old console and this great gear and these great rooms. It's a new era. It's a new music industry, right? Most people are working from their home studios. And so for me, and this goes with anything that I do, I don't like to cram my brain with unnecessary information. It stops me from getting to my goals. So if I know what my objective is, goes back to redefining what making it means. If making it for me means that I can make $100,000 a year or more, just turning on this microphone and working from my bedroom, what business, why in the world would I stuff my brain with information on a patch bay or a console or something I'm never going to work with? So it's not that it's right or wrong. It's if it's right or wrong for you and what your goals are. You want to work in a big studio? Absolutely. Go either apprentice in one or go to music school. And then when you go to intern in one, they'll have you clean the toilets for the first year. Just saying. But, if you're thinking that's the only path is where I think we get caught up, is that people don't know there's other options. People don't know there's other options besides getting a record deal, because they've always been told, oh, artists have to starve for their art. And then big old Daddy Warbucks and his, glasses and his suit and tie is going to come rescue you. And that is the myth. That's what I want to bust. I mean, we live in a day and age where people get paid to play video games, for crying out loud. You can get paid to make your music. It's really up to you how you want to do it.
Absolutely. And I think it's only getting easier. I think the hard part that I see as I watch a lot of these musicians that do struggle is they don't seem to want to dive into some of the business side, like you're talking about, like the whole idea of taking a marketing class or even just studying marketing or even reading a book. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, okay. Are you happy with are you happy with where you're at now? I guess, pain must not be bad enough for you to decide, maybe I want to move this direction just a little bit more.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer, and I don't know where this originates. I certainly didn't make it up, but it's like, if you want to live a life that most people can't live, you have to be able to do what most people aren't willing to do. Nobody in a position of greatness and wealth and success has got there by saying, I'm just going to do things that make me comfortable, that I want to do.
Yeah. It's, just even being willing to pick up the phone and call somebody or go show up and just go for it. It's kind of like, yes, that's scary, but 95% of the people aren't going to do that one little thing that might've made the difference. For those that don't know my background, I spent time, owned a software company after I'd worked in the banking industry for 12 years. So I had the real job and was able to help pay for my music habit. We'll call that. Which was really helpful when it comes to making music, when you could afford it to do that. But when I left, we started a software company, but it was a software for banks. And I was the main guy calling on all these banks, and banks are not easy to talk to. And if you're just this little, brand new software company, they don't even want to answer the phone or talk to you. We were very successful over time, but our average number of phone calls and emails to one person in order to turn into a sale ranged from 72 to 76 touches before we would close a deal. And, I've heard people with sales efforts, hey, you got to try at least 6 times in order for it to be successful. Well, we were over 70 times in order to be successful. And, show me that person that's willing to do that. And that's the reason, I think it's the same thing in music or anything. If you're willing to show up every day and try again and learn and get a little bit better, and you'll find it, and it'll eventually, something's going to click for you if you're willing to work that hard at it.
Absolutely. I have been told no. That's probably the most heard word in my vocabulary as a musician that has been in the hustle and grind for over a decade is, that's not what we're looking for. Nope. And you just keep going. Like, you keep creating. We have a saying in one of my programs. We have a coaching program where we show people how to, get paying clients as producers. And one of our mantras is create, release, repeat. Create, release, repeat. Stop creating something and then putting it on this pedestal and thinking like, this is it. This has to be it, and then you give it all this energy and you don't keep going, keep making more. It's all about repetition, and volume is a big part of it. People say, well, what's more important? Is it quantity or quality? And I say,
yes,
quantity, yes, the quantity will bring the quality. Just keep creating,
When you said no, thing that always pops into my head is if you've seen the movie Dumb and Dumber, and when Jim Carrey's sitting there and he's saying, so you're telling me there's a chance.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like a firm no, but okay, that means you did say no, didn't really mean no. So
right. Well, but you know what? I love that you brought that up, because I think it's really important to not only be super persistent through all the no's, right? Because determination is a big part of success in this industry. But I think to be able to be objective enough to course create is a very big part of it as well. So if you keep making, let's just go into a sales kind of language now. If you keep making an offer, right? And people keep saying no, the difference to decipher between when you need to up or change your offer, right? And when you just need to keep going is a fine line. I know a lot of musicians that haven't grown in the last 5 years. They haven't developed any new skills. They say they want, for example, your value or your objectives has to be in line with your actions, right? So if you're saying, I want to write pop music for the market and be on Spotify playlists, but you're making music that sounds like it's from the 90s and not in a cool retro way, but in a I'm dated and that's the music I like, then you're just making to serve yourself. Like imagine showing up to somebody's house with a bunch of vegans and going, but I like steak, so I'm going to cook steak. And if you don't eat it, what's wrong? Well, you didn't act like there's a bunch of vegetarians here, right? So I think there's a way to understand like what's marketable as well and see how you can, comfortably fit into that without feeling like you've completely sold your soul.
Oh, totally. I think the humility factor, I think a lot of times our friends and family as musicians, you talked about earlier, everybody's like, oh, good job. You're amazing. And we get built up. And so in our mind, we kind of think we're really all that, but then there's also kind of this imposter syndrome that I think we all deal with where we don't think we're worthy and don't think we can. So it's kind of this two competing worlds. I had the opportunity to be at a kind of get together with a bunch of piano musicians a couple months ago. And at that event, there was just piano and we were all sitting around the piano, and I got up there and it was one of those, I'm like, hey guys, I just wrote this new song and I want you to legitimately like beat this up and tell me that I'm horrible and give me feedback on what was, what I could do better, and just give me honest feedback. Don't tell me it's great because, maybe it was, but there's always something you can make better. And I kind of put myself out there, and it was scary as could be because, you're just like totally exposed. But the fact that I went and kind of tried to be humble enough to be like, okay, that was a good idea. As that feedback came in, and just to be able to objectively step back and look at what, whether it's your music or your funnel or your website or whatever, and be open and like seeking to improve, that made so much difference. One of my favorite books I had, it's about entomology. Have you ever studied? Do you know what entomology is? It's the study of words. This is where words come from. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of like this total nerdy educational type of subject that not very many people look at, but the word humble comes from the word humus in Latin. And humus, if you know what humus is, it's like dirt or soil that's like super fertile. And if you have fertile, super humus soil, then your plant, when you plant it in it, it's going to grow much better. And
I love that.
So if you think about being humble enough, what you're doing is you're making yourself fertile and just open to the feedback and the water and so when that seed does fall in that, it's going to be able to grow so much better than if you're just like, hey, I'm not going to really listen to this. And, this is how I like it. Makes all the difference. And it's super 100%. Uncomfortable.
100%. I think that's a big turning point for me as well. When I stopped just taking the feedback from friends that told me I was great and said, but okay, I need to get mentors. I need to be a seeker. I need to seek to improve and be prepared for that because it's really scary. Like I remember the first time a publisher, when I was like sending really bad songs and, and I remember her going, have you ever co-written before? And I just took that as like the biggest insult. I was so sensitive. I was like, what are you saying? But it was true. Like I needed to do something to expand, where I was very stuck. So yeah, I totally agree. I love that. That's the origin of the word humble. I'm totally gonna write that down somewhere.
Stick that in one of your courses. I'll have to send you that book.
In the
program. So you've done co-writing and you've coached a lot of people. Is there any, kind of session or time that you think back of like, man, I really improved and had one of those big aha moments to make yourself better as you look back? Is there anything that comes to mind with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I was in a demo phase where everything just sounded like a demo and I couldn't get it to sound any better than a demo and I didn't get it. And I had heard of using like reference tracks before, like to mix with and stuff. But I just remember going to a friend who had a lot of success in film and TV, and he was always producing for film and TV. And I said, what is the secret? Where am I wrong? Help me. And he said, Kris, he goes, he's like, you're trying to reinvent the wheel every day. He's like, let me show you something, and just pulled open like his session and showed me how much of it actually started with the reference track. And a lot of it was reverse engineering, and it wasn't like to make a sound alike so much as to know that the client wants this. And if you pull the track into your session and go, okay, how long was that verse? How long was that intro? Like what kind of drums are happening here? And just pay attention to the math. And then create a song with similar math. You don't have to make it sound exactly like it, but you can borrow the elements that will make them say yes. Like that for me, I was so excited to just go home and start with the end in mind and have this massive intention. And it was like every song I made from that point on, I monetized.
That's
no matter
awesome.
what, because whatever I wanted to do, I would just look at the market and go, okay, what's working? What is selling? What is getting placed? Reverse engineer. And it's not the same, by the way, if anyone's listening and goes, oh, it sounds like a copycat. No, even Tony Robbins says, if success leaves footsteps, right? It's all about modeling math. And there are so many, you can go back to like ancient Kung Fu masters that talk about doing this. And it's all about learning the forms first. It's actually a Kung Fu practice called a Shu Ha Ri, right? And in the Shu state, you're learning all the forms and literally modeling them, right? Like form for form, step for step. Then you start to kind of, okay, in the Ha state, you start to go, okay, I can improvise a little bit. I've got my basics down. I'm going to throw in an extra dance move, right? But then when you get to the Re state, you discard everything you learned. You throw the playbook out. And now I can sit down and produce without a reference track, but using that as my launching pad for so long allowed me to create commercial profitable music.
So speaking of these, just going to kind of back up. So we're talking business stuff, Tony Robbins. So as you're working with producers or just anybody who's wanting to get into the music business, is there like a couple of courses or is there a book what's kind of like the top 3 or 5 types of things that you would say, these were the game changers that every producer or musician person, if they want to monetize what they're doing, they really need to go through?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you right now that I looked for books and I couldn't really find the exact one, but I am trying to write that book right now. Funny you mention it.
You mentioned Launched by Jeff Walker, and that was for the coaching side of things. Yeah. Okay.
I can talk about that stuff all day, but as far as going pro as a musician and not as an educator, I would say that the books that fall into that would be Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon.
Okay.
How to Be Better at Almost Everything by Pat Flynn. And then I would say that if you want to carry that over into funnels and marketing, those apply as well. But then let's add a few to that and go Launch and anything that Russell Brunson has written. So .com Secrets, Traffic Secrets, and Expert Secrets, as well as Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, and probably a million others because I'm an avid reader. So I'm going to stop there. But I love to read. Yeah. Awesome.
Are you a big podcast person too, listening to their podcasts as well?
Yes, I have seasons where I go pretty hard on a lot of stuff. And then I have to kind of pull back, especially as I get really deep into falling more and more in love with marketing. I realize how much, and I think this is important to mention, how much we can get wrapped up in that masculine achieve strategy, energy. And I've found that when I go too far over in that way and I don't open up and maintain that artistry and that receiving, allowing like feminine energy, that I get imbalanced. And that I am known to do that because I love the strategy. And so what I'll do is I'll go through seasons where I get heavy into it. And then I pull back and I go, okay, there's actually a way, like Abraham Hicks, for example. I'm a big fan of the Abraham Hicks works and stuff like that. And being able to say, okay, I might not know what the next step is, but if I ask for guidance, I can be led to that and then let the book fall off the shelf. But it can't just be this whole listen to every teacher and every strategy thing, or I get off. You know what I mean?
Awesome. So as much as I see so many similarities to what you're doing where you get too busy and then all of a sudden the creation part of it stops. So what do you do to be able to give yourself more hours in the day? Do you go hire people? Because I watch some people where they're like, I don't want to learn it. I'm just going to go hire somebody to do all my Facebook ads, or I'm going to hire somebody to do all this. So How do you find that balance?
So there's two that I'm going to unpack a couple things there. So I have a team I have hired and I've built over the last couple of years, because as I added education into my workflow, the fulfillment aspect of things, I couldn't have sustained that, including running a community and all the things that we do with our coaches. I couldn't have done that by myself. But even before that, as a producer, I had interns and assistants. But with Produce Like a Boss, I do outsource things to people on my team so I can focus on what's in my zone of genius. But I do think, and you just nailed it, there is a difference between delegating and throwing money at a problem to make it go away and going, I don't want to learn that. I don't want to see that. And I think that this comes back down to do the work, be the 1%. You want the 1% results, do the 1%. And a lot of that is going to be white knuckling in the beginning, because you cannot delegate properly if you don't actually know how to quantify success. So saying, so I did that. You know how much money I lit on fire with my first Facebook ads, guys? And they gladly did it.
Oh yeah.
And now I know better. And I'm like, I will never do that again. Doesn't mean I have to get in there and do them myself, but I had to learn enough to quantify success. Right. So that's what I have to say about that. And then as far as making time blocking is a big one for me, is like batching similar tasks so that I don't have to context switch, right? And then also, before jumping into any task, I do this thing called the DAD method. It's DAD: delete, automate, delegate. So first I say, why am I doing this? Do I need to do this? How does this move the needle on my career and what my goals are for the month and the year? If it's not important, I delete it. If I can automate it, okay, for example, an email sequence. If I'm going to start a relationship with a client or a student and they haven't purchased, I'd like to keep following up with them. Can I write that sequence and then automate it to go out to every person that gets that tag on my list so that I don't have to put it in my calendar and follow up in a week and then two? Exactly. And then delegate would be anything that's not my zone of genius that I need to get off my plate so I can focus on bigger picture stuff. But I mean, the fact of the matter is I went from producer to teacher, right? Teaching production, which I fell in love with. And then now I've graduated to CEO, right? And now I have teachers that I'm teaching how to teach my methods so that I can be a visionary for my company and not be in the minutia every day. But it's been a gradual step up, and not everyone will want to do that. Some people will go, no, I love teaching, I want to stay here, and they'll stay there. But for me, it was like, I kept, Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss. It was like, oh my God, teaching is awesome. Marketing is awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm a visionary. I want to build more cool shit. I want to build more, more products and help more people. So
awesome. When you told me you have a big goal right when we were starting. So tell everybody about this $100,000 or 100,000 goal that you have that you shared a little bit about.
Yeah, my goal is I want to we'll start with 100,000 musicians and help them go full time from their home studios using what they've learned through the art of, our coaching, which is how to produce and record yourself from your home studio.
Awesome. And so the measure of success with those, and what do you want to be able to see them accomplish? I guess what's the biggest payday, I guess, in your mind that you'll get from that? Yeah,
we're already seeing it happen now where students are going, oh my gosh, I don't have to do these $50 bar gigs or these $200 bar gigs where I got to lug around my own PA and drive hours. And they're going, I just made $2,000 cutting a couple songs at home. And I think that's a really great start because we just launched that business coaching program less than a year ago. We don't know yet that some of these students are probably already at six figures. So it'll be fun to see because I already see it happening. We're on track for it to happen. And it's just how many more people can we help with these tools?
I can see it in your body language. You light up when you talk about the other people's success. I think one of those things when I look at even with a lot of people, you can accomplish so much by yourself, but all of a sudden when you can teach others, and it's almost a bigger payday when you watch the other people succeed that you've been able to touch in some way. And
it is my biggest thing, especially being on my own since 15. I was very self-focused for a long time, which I think is good. I think it caused me to do a lot of self-improvement and kind of helped with that journey. But it was always as a musician, how can I get my placement? How can I get my deal? How can I make enough money? Survival. And then I didn't have to worry about surviving anymore. And then all of a sudden Produce Like a Boss came along. And as I was helping other people and they would come to me and say, Kris, I just got my song into a movie. I have a student who just placed 3 songs in an Antonio Banderas movie. No joke, big in the theaters, real deal movie.
Big deal.
And I taught her everything she knows. She came to us not knowing anything about music production. That when my students come to me and they're like, oh my God. And they either get those successes or they come to me going, oh, I get it. That aha drug. The only thing I love getting more than getting that for myself is getting it for other people. That's I still get told oh, you just got another sync placement. And it feels like a 100th of the size of the heartfulness that I feel when I'm helping my students, which for me, it's that's where I got to go. I got to move towards that feeling,
Oh, as I've talked to lots of musicians, one of the things I see is just that payday of knowing that their art helped in some way. I think it's just universal for musicians. So that's awesome. Well, Kris, thank you so much for sharing. If people want to find out a little bit more about you, where should they go? What's the website, or, where should they look you up?
Sure. If you could just find me Produce Like a Boss anywhere. Producelikeaboss.com, IG, TikTok is usually where I'm hanging out on the socials. And if you wanted to like get into an introductory, if you want to learn how to produce, you could do a free training at producelikeaboss.com/ready.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I have a feeling we're going to be chatting more and more.
Yeah.
You're a total funnel nerd and business nerd, kind of like me. There's very few of us that really just light up about these types of things, but I appreciate your time today. And hopefully people got some really good value out of this, and appreciate all your thoughts on, and I love how you just serve your people. It's about, when you've made it about helping others. And I think that makes all the difference. In the reason why you've been successful is it's not been, I can just tell it's not about you. It's about serving and helping others around you. So congratulate you for that. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. All right. Sweet.
Yay, that was fun.
Hopefully you got some good stuff out of there. You feel good about it?
Yeah. I get excited and I talk fast, and I always have to remind myself I just get excited. But
you know what? Russell talks fast too, and it's okay.
It's like, there's another guy I've been following for a while. He's Alex Hormozy. And whenever he gets on stage, he's like, all right, so I talk really fast, but if I talk fast, it's just because you listen slow. And then he just jumps in and goes.
That's awesome.
Sometimes I have to tell my students to watch my video at 75% speed. It's fine.
Well, I know on Russell's, I can go about 1.5 is all I can get. There's some people you can go like 2.
Most people
2X.
I listen to at 2X. I can't listen to Russell on 2X. And I have like 2 students out of a lot who've like told me they can listen to me at 2X. I'm like, you're insane. Everyone else got to take me down.
I'll put stuff on at 2X, and like sometimes I'll be in the car and it'll pop on, and the kids and families all there, and they're like, how do you do this? This is like listening to some foreign language. No, you just got to focus. It's okay.
Yeah. My newest thing is listening at 2X or 2.3 or 4 and reading at the same time. And it's actually increasing my words per minute. Like I haven't tested myself, but I can read faster now because I'm doing both at the same time.
I should do that.
And it helps with retention too, which is, it's crazy.
I need
nerd stuff.
Oh, I know, right?
Well, thank you for having me today. That was a lot of fun. I really would love to have you on the podcast and
sure. Let's do it.
I just moved. And so I'm still kind of like, the podcast has been on hiatus for a little bit, but
I noticed that you're like, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. I was going crazy. And then I was like, okay, what happened?
Yeah. It's time to jump back in. So I'll reach out to set a date. Okay. That'll be a lot of fun. And then I'll definitely see you at Funnel Hacking Live.
Well, I was going to just invite you. So do you know Gabe Schillinger that does MIDI Money? Mm-hmm. So he and I, are good friends. We went down to Costa Rica together. He was my roommate buddy on cool. The Modern Musician. I helped Michael Walker, Modern Musician, yeah. Right? So I helped Michael put together the mastermind retreat that he did down there. Oh, and cool. So I was the one that organized the whole thing, and my team did all of that. But I got Gabe was my roommate on that trip. And so we just kind of clicked. Like he's total ClickFunnels nerd. Yeah. He's got VAs as well.
He's been on my podcast. I've been on his podcast. I know Michael very well. I've been on the Success with Music conference every year for the last few years, and I actually got invited to Costa Rica, but wasn't able to attend. So, well,
you should honestly. We should put together a trip. Those mastermind trips, if you do them right, they take almost no energy from, like Michael, when we put his together, he literally just invited people and we did everything else. Like he wasn't even, you can't leave between you and me, but he was not even was not prepared. Like, yeah. I'm there with it. I'm like, okay, what did you want to do? Oh, well, dude. It's like, okay, dude.
So when you say you put it together, your team, like, what do you like? That's not like, what is that, a service that you offer? Or
no. So I own several companies. So I've got my music that does the piano stuff. I've got the Inspirational Stories one that's a business that we did really well. We did about $500,000 in that one last year. So that's like a book publishing type of thing. And then I've got the Amazing Vacations Costa Rica, which is the humanitarian. So it's basically a tour company that organizes everything from the time you get through customs at the airport. They pick you up and they're hanging out with you. They do all the activities, they take care of the hotels, transportation, food. I mean, you name it until you go home. So think of it like a better than a cruise, because it's like with real cool people in a really safe place. So so we do mastermind trips. One of my favorite trips that they do down there is they call it the Momcation trip. So
Momcation?
it's like a mom and daughter trip.
Okay.
So the gal that started doing those, her name's Nalia. She was on season 2 of Survivor. She was the runner up.
Okay.
And so just a super cool, bubbly gal, but she invited all of her friends to come down there.
Wow.
And it was such a hit that like 6 months later, she's like, I got like 30 people that want to come down. And I want to do this trip where we take these moms and put them in really cool situations and challenge them, but like have all that mama talk and stuff. And so it's like all these girls on this trip, and we've got our guides that are like the big brother almost to like watch it, make sure everything's good. And they cook dinner. That's and
so cool.
Massages on the beach, and they go to the jungle lodge. They raft into the jungle lodge and they spend 2 days and they do the zip line and the Tarzan swing. And,
it's amazing.
It's so cool. So,
man.
So you could totally like, I don't know, like with Bree, she was talking, I mean, she's got all these women and I'm like, Bree, this would be totally up your alley. And depending on like who your people are, I mean, if they're super adventurous, there's tons of cool stuff there, but
I'm not super adventurous.
And you don't have to
I'm an indoorsy girl.
Got it. Well, then I would say, let's not take you to the jungle and
I think, when I think of it, like in theory, I'm like, oh, that would be so beautiful. Like beach. Yes. Monkeys. Yes. Like, coconuts. Yes. And then I think about bugs and humidity and actually, but no, that's amazing. That's so cool.
But basically we organize stuff like that. And so we've done everything.
Is it only exclusive to Costa Rica?
So the Costa Rica team is exclusive to Costa Rica.
Oh, it's a team.
So,
okay, got it.
So I've got it's a whole company down there. Like it's legit doing 7 figures a year type of stuff. And I've been able we launched it. I spent like 4 years getting everything going. And I've got to the point now where I'm probably involved 4 to 6 hours a month, if that. Man. So I've kind of been able to be total passive, which is great. And then, I've got the travel agency, which is a
serial entrepreneur. I love it.
Dangerously. It's
somehow haven't stepped into like courses and coaching yet, which is
I know how much work it is. That's the problem. Like,
it's like next level stuff right there though. Like,
I know.
You already have all this like success without that. It's just.
Well, and the way I justified the Costa Rica thing was, so I was on a whitewater kayaking trip down there, and I'm in the jungle. I was at the jungle lodge. We'd kayaked in, and it's like class 4, like it could kill you rapid type stuff. And so I went
on my first 0.5 one the other day, and I was like, never again.
Oh, that's called a swimming pool.
Yeah, right.
But we do, so those guys do everything from like the crazy adventurer all the way to like old people that are with walkers that can't even like walk a half mile. So, and everything in between. So it's, and I would say you don't fall into that one yet.
I was going to say, I can hang out with them. That sounds like my speed right there. Half mile. Good.
Yep. You're good.
That's awesome.
But then we launched we had the travel agency, Amazing Vacations USA, in order to like remove liability in case somebody were to die down there doing crazy stuff. So we set up this entity here in the US, but we got my partner and I, that's a retina surgeon. He's like, hey, we should just go figure out the travel stuff. There's probably some perks and things like that for travel agents. And so all right, I guess I'll dive into that. So found out there's all kinds of awesome things. And the other thing I learned, the millennial in me used to think travel agents were like the stupidest thing ever. Yeah. And like, why would I call a travel agent when I can just go do it myself? That's dumb. That was totally my attitude. And then when I dove into that world, it was like, okay, the people that book their own thing are like not smart at all, because the travel agents get perks, they get discounts. Like to ridiculous levels for their clients.
Yeah.
And why would I want to sit on the phone with some guy in Venezuela to book my own trip when I could have somebody else?
Project manager for your vacation.
Well, so I just got back from Alaska so we did a family trip. I didn't even book it. So I've been able to get team members to do all this. So I put my mom in charge of it to work with my team. There was 5 rooms on this cruise ship that we needed to get. Okay. And so she did all this research. I'm like, Mom, go figure out what's the best thing. And there's 14 total people. So she found the thing she wanted to do. I'm like, okay, let's go talk to Julie and Gwen, and we'll get this thing booked. And so we go in and we book what's called a refundable fare for cruises. Do you do cruises at all, or is that not your world either?
No, I haven't in a long time, but I want to go on a cruise.
So that would be a super fun one for like if you had like your producer people and you wanted to do like a higher level mastermind and make, let's say you want to make $10,000 or $20,000, $30,000, you could totally do that. But with that cruise, so we book what's called a refundable fare, and my mom locked in her price. Okay. And this would have been in April. So the next month our team goes in and we look to see what the deals are. And the prices had dropped $6,000 for her trip. So she would have, if she didn't know what she was doing, she would have just booked the trip and been happy as could be. So 30 days later, we look, hey, it's dropped $6,000. So we're going to take your refundable fare. We're just going to rebook it. You just saved $6,000. Nice. And she's like, okay, that's cool. And then right as we got up to the date when we were supposed to book for her, it was about 45 or so days out. We checked again. It had dropped $4,000 more. Oh, so she saved $10,000 less than what she would have paid on had she done it on her own. Wow. And then at that point we had to pay because it was like within 45 days or so of the trip. But then we looked again, like 30 days later. So we're like 2 weeks out from the trip. It had dropped again. So we called Royal Caribbean on this one. We're like, hey, this dropped. They won't give you cash back at that point, but they're like, well, we usually don't do this, but we're going to give you a room credit if that's okay, because they want to keep you happy. So we ended up getting another like $5,000 in room credit. So that paid for the tips and we went to the fancy restaurants and paid for the excursions. So
that's amazing.
It was like $14,000, $15,000 less because we just let our team do their thing. And I don't know how I need to do a better job of telling that story, because nobody'd ever want to book a cruise on their own ever again. But I just see people on a whim. Oh, I'm going to go on a cruise. Boom, booked. And they don't ever call their agent.
That is such a good point. I'm going to be reaching back out to you.
But the way I justified that whole thing was from the music side, because that's a total squirrel. That's like, okay, let's go start a company in Costa Rica because that's a good idea. Like, somebody punch me in the face. That's a horrible idea. You're a moron, right? But I thought, no, if I can figure this out, then I can help other musicians to figure out how to take their people on some sort of high level mastermind VIP experience. And if we can make that process, streamlined for them, because most musicians aren't organized enough or logistically savvy enough to figure out how to do that. Yeah. And now we do all the back end. We just give you here, put this link out here. You just tell your people about it. We'll take care of everything. Boom. You just show up and do your, play your songs or whatever.
Yeah. And I love that.
Anyway, so that's, we were doing really well until COVID hit, and that was fun for a couple of years. And now it's we're back on track. Though. Oh, it's totally coming back, in a crazy way. Like
everyone's ready, right? Like to get heck out there. So
yeah. So that's been fun. So those are kind of my 4 primary businesses. And then, for very, very select people, I've shared some of my Philippines team's expertise, like the whole website audit thing that we do. Every once in a while, if it's the right person, I'll be like, hey, we can have our team jump in here and do the audit and improvement meeting. And then they come back with all these slides and do a presentation like, hey, this link is broken and this doesn't work. And oh, by the way, this person's trying to click here, but guess what happened? They're clicking this picture and then they stop because it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. And
I just had an SEO audit done.
Yeah. I mean, this is like way deeper than a normal SEO audit. Yeah. So like SEO audits are like light level. We're looking at recording. So like Manny is going in and like watching to see what people do. So you're looking over the shoulder of somebody on their phone scrolling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's
with the heat maps and stuff.
Well, it's heat maps, but then it's going and actually watching the people do the thing and watching for the problems. It's kind of creepy, but it's totally legal and really helpful. So,
wow. Okay.
Anyway, but Gabe and we were talking and we were like, hey, we need to get like these funnel nerds together that are in the music industry and put a mastermind type group together. And so we decided we were going to do it in August. We're going to do our first call, but we're really wanting to be selective about who gets into this thing, because there's lots of people that are pretending like, oh, I get it. But they just don't on a lot of levels.
Most people don't. Yeah.
Right. And so like Christine Morel, do you know her? Mm-hmm. So Christine's going to join that group. So right now it's the 3 of us, and possibly Bree might be joining, but I don't see it as a paid mastermind at all. Right now it's more of just like, hey, let's just get together on a Zoom call and we'd share the best ideas. So everybody'd have like 10 minutes to like show your cool idea, your wicked smart idea. And we'll just all learn from each other.
I like that. That sounds cool.
Anyway, if you want to jump on that, I haven't picked a date yet, but if you wanted to join that, I think you'd be an awesome fit for that group.
Yeah, for sure. I know Christine and Gabe, and now I know you. And so I think there'd be a lot of synergy there. So I'm definitely game.
All right, cool. I'll send you a link after this. I've got like an initial funnel set up, but we'll get that on there. But it's one of those where if you know anybody that's like total funnel nerd level person, not just somebody
I'm looking for, I was just telling my fiance this. I was like, I don't have a lot of, what happened is like, I fell in love with this side of the business. I go to Funnel Hacking Live and I'm like, yeah. Like, and then I come home and I'm like, no, I don't have, I don't really have that, a lot of that community around me, but I'll keep my ears open for sure. But like, if anything, people are coming to me like, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? Right. And, the biggest thing I kind of do to, like I said, I am moving into helping with like people build like coaching and coursing businesses as an extension of Produce Like a Boss. But I also kind of have this guard around like the people that are just coming in because they're like, that's a way to make a lot of money and And I'm like, dude, like, that's not what the world like needs. Like, and it's like, anyone that like, if I say read .com secrets and expert secrets, it'll answer all these questions. Like it's like musicians as well. Everyone's always looking for the shortcut. And they're like, no, but really, what is it? I'm like, I really read all those books like 6 times. And then I went and I did all the freaking work. Like, you want to pick my brain over coffee. I'm really busy, but like, I'm just going to tell you everything that I learned from those books. Right. So It's like, do the work. And then I want to be around people that have done the work so we can share great ideas and not feel like I'm in another pick my brain, like coffee session,
well,
which I don't need.
One of the best things I started doing is because people do the same thing to me and they're like, well, what do you do? And I said, well, let me send you these links. Here's the link to go buy .com secrets. And I get like $1 for it. If maybe I don't know, it's dumb, but I'll send them this link for the affiliate and then I'll send them one funnel away challenge. I'm like, I can attribute over $1 million in sales to one funnel away challenge. Yep. And I went through that and I just did the work. And
it's weird. You just do the work. Right. But then, even with that, like it's, I feel like some people they're in it for themselves and you can tell when they talk, it's very me. And like, even when they put together a course, it's like, that's why people aren't buying you. And then they wonder why no one wants to buy it. And I'm like, you made it all about you, bro. Like all of it, like even your content is repelling because it doesn't say that you're here for service. And a lot of people think that like sales is slimy, but for me, I think like sales is the most spiritual service thing. If you do it right and it feels good, like it's service and it's sales. So anyways, I'm going on a tangent because I'm just thinking of like, I would love to connect with like-minded people like yourself and just share ideas. So.
Well, we got 4 of us in the group now. So the 3 of us and possibly Bree coming in, but my goal is, I probably, if it gets to be a lot of work, maybe we'll monetize it a little bit, but maybe it's more just to keep people really wanting to show up and be there. So we're not wasting each other's time too. But for right now, my plan is we'll do an August call and then we do like a meetup at FHL. We do dinner or something somewhere with the group. So we get to know each other a little better rather than just going and hoping you run into somebody cool in line and waiting in the line for overpriced food at the hotel. But and then, you just triggered one other memory. So I used to help with a lot of cross-selling and sales type of training when I was at the banks. My favorite trainer that has trained like 50,000 bankers, he used to use the word, so banking was big with the word cross-selling. And so selling is just they call it cross-selling in the banking world. And everybody thinks selling is a bad word. And so the way he would say it is he's like, you are not selling to anybody. He says, you are solving problems. And he says, call it cross-solving. And
I like that.
And so there's another buzzword for you for the day of, if you approach it as I'm helping to solve problems for people, you'll never sell a day in your life.
That's it. Right. And people, they're like, oh, Kris, you're so good at marketing. Like, what's your secret? I'm like, I literally you cannot stop the natural enthusiasm I have about the thing I created because I fucking know it changes lives. Like you cannot like manufacture. I'm sorry. I'm a potty mouth princess. You cannot manufacture though that genuine enthusiasm. And everyone on my team feels the same way. And my coaches feel the same way. And it's part of the reason I'm moving out of coaching is because I'm getting more lit up by funnels and marketing because that's my new chapter, my new season. But for them, they're in the thick of it, using the strategies and frameworks I've taught them, applying it. And now they're lit up about, oh my God, I can teach you how to make $5,000 right now. And I'm like, I want to teach people how to make a lot more than that, but anyways.
Are you familiar with AppSumo?
Yes, but no. Like I know that's not foreign to me, but I don't know what it is.
So where you're telling me all these strategic level things, this is one of the things I've done and found in the last couple of years that's really helped me. So AppSumo is a software company tool where early software companies can basically put their software out there when it's kind of in beta mode. and they share it with the world. But you can buy into the thing for like stupid cheap, like $59 or $99, and you get like a lifetime deal. So it would be like a company like Zapier or somebody like that that's early on. But what I use it for is they have like a once or twice a week email. And so they feature these different software tools. And I would say 1 out of 5 or 6 of those emails will have some software. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And so it's just different ideas and applications. So there's, the big, like Kajabi, for example. Kajabi is awesome, but there's a tool called UTeach that came on there that they've tried to make the better Kajabi.
Okay.
Or the better ClickFunnels or the better, dashboard report tool.
What do you think about High Level as a CRM guy?
I'm starting to build in it. I have not had the time to dive into it, but I've got one of my team members that's building our first funnel out in it. So we're using Gabe's. Yeah. Gabe just gave me access to his thing. Do you like it?
I haven't jumped in yet. I'm actually about to hire an EA who's a tech ninja. So I'm going to have her kind of spearhead it. But my plan is to white label High Level in 2 different ways, both for my produce like a boss students, to nurture like production clients. But as I'm working with more online courses and course creators, I want to put my systems as well into my new thing, which will be called Extraordinary Experts. So I have ideas, but it's all up here right now. And so I've heard that High Level is better than Kajabi and ClickFunnels.
Yes. So it's at certain things. Okay. So it's doing some things really well. It's still got every CRM has things that are awesome and things that you will absolutely hate and they're broken and don't work and just piss you off. And
my biggest thing is I don't want people coming to me with the problems. Like, this is your software. It's like, well, I'm licensing my systems, right? So it's like, as long as I get the tech support end covered where they're not coming to my actual community or to me or my inbox with issues, and they're being served at a high level.
This is my worry with that for you. And so Gabe's got his rolled out. I know how much work it is because I did a software company from the ground up with the support and everything. I just know it creates all kinds of pains and challenges, and it's great when you get there, but it still sucks when you're in it every day. Yeah. Okay. And you'll never get out of it. But I look at, like, I think Isabella is another one that's using High Level, that's white labeled it. I worry a little bit when Gabe and you and Isabella and whoever other people are using this and white labeling it, which is great.
I didn't know that other people in our industry.
Oh, totally. Michael did it for his modern musician stuff. So he's using it as well. So here's the problem I see is, now it becomes this price, who can get to the cheapest thing, because I can get the exact same thing from every single person. Where there can be the offer stack to deliver value is if, let's say, Gabe and you teamed up together. So he's already got the support people in place. And if there was some way to now provide the templates you got Gabe's templates and you got Kris's templates and you got Russell Brunson's templates or whatever other templates from, it's just what Russell teaches, what's the offer stack of all this extra value? Everybody's using ClickFunnels, but if you buy it from me, then you get this. Exactly. So now Michael Walker, as cool as Michael Walker is, do I really, we're actually teaching people and you guys both focus on the production side. I think that would be a really good fit. I'm sure there's some, Gabe would have to want to do it and it'd have to make sense, obviously, but I feel like that's where to
affiliate for each other. And while I love Gabe on a personal level and his podcast and stuff, like our audiences, there's just not enough alignment there. Like his is primarily rappers. Mine is primarily singer-songwriters. There's just not a lot of crossover there.
The CRM totally overlaps for producers and for rappers and for what he's doing. So
because it's a follow-up sequence. Mine though is more with like paid clients, for hire services, as to where I think his is more like artist building.
Well, I look at people in the music. I mean, think about people in the music industry. They go all directions. So his people may branch out into production and may branch into singer-songwriter. So I feel like there's if you have that multi-path, oh my gosh, it can do all of this. Yeah. Now I'm actually more bought into because if what Gabe's doing doesn't work for me, then I'm like, why would I stay inside of his high level thing? Because I'm going to go look for Michael's that does this thing. Yeah. But I just feel
if I'm being 100%, like we get down to the real, the doing it for Produce Like a Boss is a secondary idea, but the first idea is is for me to use it for my high level, high ticket monthly retainer for business coaching and consulting, where I'm working with a very small group of people that I only take a certain amount. It's a monthly retainer, and I'm coaching them and training them. I've become like, I've gone through extensive copywriting training and just all this other shit that's worked for me. It's so they're not getting high level. They're getting me, they're getting my systems, my words, and a lot of preloaded, pre-written, stuff that will essentially be it's a little bit of done with you and a little bit of done for you, right? Because they'll be coaching with me. But what it does is it creates continuity. If they don't want to continue coaching with me on my retainer, go ahead and just keep the systems, I said, it's a thought up here right now. No implementation's been taken on it. And I'm really just hiring an EA like this week to see if we can execute.
It's probably, I think it could totally work. I think it's a program that's getting a lot of attention. I mean, Funnel Gorgeous is, if Julie Stein, that was Russell's. I know who she is. Yeah. So she was,
I didn't know that that's what she did until the other day.
Yeah. Funnel Gorgeous. And so I think you listen to Russell talk a couple times, and when there's like a little bit of I'm hurt by other people, it's totally her. You can totally figure that out.
I'm into Comma Club coach. Okay. So here's the skinny. I'm into Comma Club coaching right now. I just signed up a couple months ago.
Got the 25,000 or the 50,000 or?
It's 2,500 a month. And
okay.
Generally, like you're supposed to be in that until you get your 2 Comma Club, and then you get to go to Inner Circle. Technically, I already got my 2 Comma Club, but I wanted to get in for the coaching. But I said to the head coach, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking of joining this mastermind. I heard good things about Julie. And he was like, please, anybody but Julie. He's like, yeah, it was very much there's bad blood there. And he didn't want to get into it. So he didn't, but it sounds like the same thing that you're bringing up.
How good is the coaching stuff with the 2 Comma Club stuff? Has it been totally worth it?
Here's what I love about it. Like at any time I can look at a calendar and go, okay, who's on today? And there's always some kind of office hours going on. And it's never, because there's so much of it, it's never full. So it's almost like being able to get on a one-on-one call with an expert at any time to talk things, traffic and copywriting. And that has made it worth it for me so far. Also, the content that's in there is higher quality content than the free stuff. And the free stuff is great. The books are great. All the YouTubes, everything is great. But you get into the 2 Comma Club coaching and it's way more succinct. It's edited in a way that's more clear. And it just I finally got the perfect webinar as opposed to trying to get it off YouTube videos or in the book. It is better. It's higher quality teaching. But I'd say the biggest thing is the accessibility to coaches at all times. I could probably go on right now and there'll be somebody just hanging out. What can I help you with? The mindset coaching is the least interesting to me. And that's what they're trying to get me to jump into all the time. I'm like, no, I give me the strategy, so.
Believe in yourself. That's because
Why do you ask?
Well, I've just watched and debated on my issue is I just don't feel like I have the time to, I don't have the time to dive into the Funnel Flicks basic stuff. I mean, I've gone through a ton of it. And so it's one of those where I just look at it as like, okay, I should not spend more money on this stuff.
They'll give it to you and one more person on your team. So whether it's your spouse or somebody like your EA or a VA. So that was another thing is I don't have time to go through all that. Another thing I'm noticing as a high ticket buyer that's bought a lot of high ticket stuff is the higher the ticket the buyer, the less they tend to use it because they're actually out there doing the damn thing. Right. Yep. So I try not to feel bad if I don't use it. It's just there if I need it. But I put Patrick, who's right now, he's our brand ambassador / marketing guy. We're training him in all that. He's also taken all of our courses and had massive success, just a total stand-up human. And I'll be like, Patrick, you got to go into office hours this week and go ask a bunch of questions. And he got guided through how to do our ads. It was the lowest our CPL has ever been. We were up to $8 a lead, which was the highest it had ever been. And that was on our last launch for the boot camp. And then it's been as low at the best at $3.33 a couple of years ago. Our last CPL was $1.38.
Got it. How many leads does it take to get a conversion? What's your conversion rate on sales?
It depends on the thing. The last thing that we did, our opt-in page had a 38% conversion, which was awesome. I'm trying to remember exactly what the conversion was on the launch. It was somewhere in the 20s. It was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
But we're changing. The thing is, we're coming out of the launch model. Like we started launching and then we tried to do little things evergreen in between, but it was just so sexy, right? But here it's this, it's this. And it becomes way too chaotic and like make or break. It feels a little too feast and famine. So my big thing right now is getting in there and really fixing all the funnels and going, okay, that worked live. Like we've had several big multiple six-figure launches, but I would rather have consistent 5 and 6 figure months. Like that's what I want to get to, So right now I'm just in there fixing. I took, like I said, I paid a copywriter $20,000 to do a bunch of assets for me and then said, you're freaking awesome. Show me how to do what you did, and I started taking her course and now I'm doing better with it. But all that to say, getting everything fixed and set on autopilot right now, including doing a book funnel, which we'll do through ClickFunnels so that we can start having more of a consistent, like even taking our coaching program and making it evergreen and just enough with the launches, enough with the cohorts, like what other business works like that? Like keep your doors open all the time. Stop with the fake scarcity. Like, let's even out, So that's kind of what I'm hoping to get the most from the 2 Comma Club coaching is more scale and strategy stuff like that. But because most people, I think, start with ads fairly early and they're jumping into that strategy stuff early, as to where we started with a product and my story, which just happened to naturally be good copywriting. And I didn't even know it. I didn't even know at the time when I was sharing my story that I was hyper attracting people because I was messaging right. I was just like, I'm just telling my story. And I didn't know what it was, but it's, unconscious competence, if you will. But now it's like, we're at a point where we've had our products just work. Like our social proof is massive, but we never had to put the work into getting good at ads or getting good with strategy, even because it was just working. But we've, had those big ass launches. And now it's like, okay, we have to reach new people. We have to apply some strategy and get it more consistent. So
awesome.
I just put a lot on you. Sorry. But I have a friend.
And I'm enjoying listening to it. It's like, this is you're one of my people. Like nobody enjoys talking about this stuff. It's like I can talk to my wife and like even the friends that are in the music, I throw this at them and they're just like, they'll listen and they're nice, but they don't get it. Yeah.
My fiance actually does digital marketing for doctors. And has an agency and everything. And when I first met him, I was like, we're going to nerd out on funnels, but he's so the anti-ClickFunnels guy. He's the agency model and it doesn't resonate with him. And it's always been this running joke where he's like, I'm never going to go to Funnel Hacking Live. So stop asking me. It's fine. Go. And then I was like, I'm getting my 2 Comma Club award. He's like, I have to go now, don't I? I'm like, kind of, but.
Have you been to TNC Summit or have you follow those guys, Ryan Dice, at all?
No, who's TNC?
The traffic and conversion summit.
No. I know what that is now. No, I haven't been to that.
So I would say that was at least a couple of years ago when I was in San Diego. That was the best conference I've ever been to in my life. And I used to go to like 6 to 8
moved from San Diego and I
6 to 8 conferences per year. I mean, I always go to the conferences. And I would say if you want like Funnel Hacking Live, I don't know. Part of me doesn't love it. Is that bad to say? It's a lot of I love what they're doing, but it's a lot of the rah and they don't get into the weeds. It's the strategy and you need that and you need to stay that higher level. But if you back up and you look at what they do, I mean, they build it up and like, you can do this. And they build it up. So you, buy into our $25,000 and $50,000 coaching program. And it's totally set up to sell their high-end coaching. It's
so meta. It's not even funny. It's,
Anyway, so it does that, but Traffic and Conversion Summit, I feel like they lost a little bit of the amazingness they had the first year I went, but they bring in all these industry leaders and they dive into a lot of the people doing the stuff as they show the numbers. So like for the nerdy people like us, where they show the screenshot of here's the A/B test, here's which one worked. Oh, wow. Well, let's look at the next slide. This one worked. This one didn't. Which one do you think worked better? And so they're diving into you should totally follow. It's digitalmarketer.com is the group that you ought to be following. They have some really good emails that they send out that are just free. I would say you got Russell, you got Ryan Dice, and you got, they're kind of like the Dan Kennedy They're not against what Russell's doing. It's a little bit different flavor, but they give more of the tactical, which I feel like that's missing from a lot of what Russell teaches. Is they give you the high level strategic, but not the let's do it with you type of stuff.
Dude, I'm all about it. I'm going to check it out. Thank you so much.
So anyway, so that it's one of those where they'll have like 6 to 8 different courses per hour when you go. And I think they're still doing it in San Diego. So aren't you in Oceanside or up just north of there?
I'm in Arizona now, but I just moved from San Diego.
So are you in Phoenix or where are you at?
Yeah, it's Chandler. You're
in Chandler. What brought you to Chandler, Gilbert, all that area?
Yeah. I love this house. Yeah. We got a lot more bang for our buck with the house. It helps that it helps with running the business from this state as opposed to, California. Oh. And his kids are going to college here. So there was a huge, huge benefit on the tuition costs for him. Oh yeah. So it made sense in a lot of ways. It's hot.
This is a bad time of year.
I am an ocean person. Like I'm not like a diver or a surfer, but I love the ocean person. So I'm feeling a little bit of like, but it's cool. We did get a lot of bang for it. We got a big ass backyard. We got a pool. I love this house. It's all good, man. Where are you?
I'm just up north of you in Utah. So I've got family. My sister used to live she's in Gilbert, and I've got family in Scottsdale, and one's Phoenix, but close to Scottsdale, just north there.
Scottsdale, where I go to feel like I'm back in Southern California again.
There's great restaurants up in there. Yeah. There's so many good restaurants. There's an Italian place we were at just when we were there in April that was like awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well,
awesome. Well, it was so nice to meet you today.
Yeah.
Thanks for going down the rabbit hole with me and nerding out.
I'll send you a little thing so you can go through my forum. I mean, you're into the program, you're into the little mastermind group, but fill it out. I'd love your input on, hey, this is, if we did want to go bigger with this, then here's what I think we should change. But I spent like less than an hour building this little funnel with Gabe. Okay. So it's supposed to come into our CRM system and work, but you'll be like the second person I've sent it to. So, okay,
cool. Yeah. Send it over.
And are there days of the week that are better for you than others? Is like Friday afternoons better for like, if we're doing like a get together call, is it like lunchtime on certain days? Say,
let me look here.
So I'm thinking if we make it consistently, like once a month and
I want to say like either Mondays after 12 or after 1 or Fridays after. Yeah. Cause I'm stopping those calls. So yeah, I had like Fridays after 12 or 1 or Monday after 12 or 1.
Okay. I think I'll probably lean more towards the Friday, maybe 2:00-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I'll check with Gabe, and you're not on East Coast time, so that helps a ton too. So
yeah.
Sweet. Do you know anybody else I had to interview for this podcast at all that would be a good fit?
For this podcast, for
successful musicians, it's just kind of the conversation like we had. It doesn't have to be like some ultra successful person. It could be one of your producer people that like has a cool story.
I have like a couple. Yes, I do. I'll send you a couple names with a little bit about them underneath, and you can let me know which one.
Well, you know what? My goal is just to share as many people as I can. So I'm actually hopeful that I can highlight some people that don't fit the, hey, I'm too comma club person award. I want normal
I'm thinking
people.
of like my students, even like people that have graduated our coaching program that are now, running like successful businesses, doing custom songwriting and session work. And, I can think of a handful when I think of it like that aren't doing the funnel thing or anything else like that. So
just anybody you think is like, has that inspiring story that some struggling kid is trying to say, hopefully they binge listen to us and they're like, oh, well, if she can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I'll send you some stuff.
Sweet. Okay. Well, thanks so much. Have a good weekend and appreciate all your time. This probably will go live probably early August. I've got to do a lot of cleanup, but I've got about a dozen of these in the hopper, and I'm going to just schedule them. And so I'll be ahead. So I'm not like,
will you send me shareable assets so I can?
Oh, totally. I'll send you videos and all that. So yep. It's going to probably be a week or so, but I got to hand it off to my team, and then they do all the work in the Philippines. So
love it. All right. Thanks so much. Yep. I'll talk to you soon.
See you later, Kris. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, it's Jason here, and I hope you've gotten a lot of value out of this episode. Be sure to check out our show notes to learn more about our guest today, and if you'd like to support our podcast, there's a few things that you can do to help us grow. First, if you hit subscribe, It will help ensure that you don't miss a future episode. Second, if you'll share it with your friends on social media or send it via email or message, it helps us spread the word as well. And third, if you leave an honest review, it really helps with the algorithms so that other people can find our podcast. Finding success and fulfillment in the music industry is possible, and I look forward to seeing you on our next episode.